Hi Nikki, hi Transport Evolved. Oh my gosh, my hair is insane. I've just been outside. Thank you very much for your video yesterday about Renault's next to self-driving technology. We had some very interesting comments from people who commented on your video, one of which was saying about how when you were talking about multimodal transport and how you can use this car and maybe order it to go to the train station and then get the train, how trains aren't actually that fuel efficient because all their statistics are done assuming they have a full carriage, which kind of makes sense. I probably would have done the same if I was in the train industry. But I think what they're missing is that this technology is wider than that. We're not just talking about one person changing and one car going there, being driven there, then person getting on train. We're talking about everyone. We're talking about a cultural shift from single people driving cars to these pod type car situations. So if everyone's doing that same journey, then the train should be full. I have two main thoughts about the self-driving Renaults and things that could happen. The first one being real world. I know they've done these tests and probably even done them out on streets, but that's one car or a fleet of 5 cars or even a fleet of 100 cars. They're not experiencing everything that happens in the real world. I know people who've got reverse parking sensors that constantly beep at you whenever they're going to reverse because there's some dirt embedded in the sensor, or in the winter some ice has formed over it, or in one case, a spider used to scurry across the sensor, which would cause the car to think you're about to back into something. Now, if your car's making decisions based upon these inputs, what could happen? The other factor is, how are people going to respond to this? I know a lot of people who don't like automatic cars because they feel they are losing control, which I think is patently ridiculous because, I mean, what do they want to control? Do they want to control the valve timings in their engine? But historically, Britain, at least, has been very adverse to these types of changes. I can imagine places like America and probably Europe rolling this out quite freely because people there seem a lot more interested in this new type of technology. But in Britain, I'm not so sure. But what did I want to talk to you about today? It's this. It's the weather. I know you can't see me very well because of the backlitness, but the weather in the UK, and I know in other places of the world, is absolutely bonkers at the moment. I mean, this is pretty much climate change in action. I've not seen a storm like this go on for this long in my lifetime. This is completely new. We are predicted to have storms of up to about 80 miles an hour winds. This is in my area of the UK. This doesn't happen. There's going to be flooding. I live, not directly, but in the areas around me. I live in a place where we had those floods back in 2007 where people didn't have clean water for a week. It's absolutely bonkers. And this is happening more and more. But how does this affect people who drive electric cars? It's an interesting one. My first piece of advice, if I'm even qualified to give advice, is don't use charging timers on your car. The last time we had a big storm, my car didn't get a charge because there was a power cut overnight. I didn't realise the car couldn't charge. So charge as soon as your car gets home. That seems to make sense, at least to me. Other than that, I think it comes down to sensible driving. Don't drive if you don't have to. It's like all these people who drive into work when it's snowing. You don't have to do that. Work, you're not beholden to work. You're not a slave. If it's dangerous for you to drive in, do not drive in. One thing I've noticed with all the EVs I've driven is that they tend to catch the wind more. Side winds tend to really knock them off course. And I want to know, is that just confirmation bias with me? Is that just me being a bad driver? My current theory is because the batteries generally are down low, the car's taller because everything needs to be bunched up. What can we do about the weather? Well, not a lot. I think climate scientists now tend to agree, it's 95% of them agree that we are past the point of being able to avoid things like this happening more and more. We're at disaster control. We're at damage limitation. As a species, we couldn't get our asses together to come up with a solution that worked, that we were all happy with. We were too busy with greed. But going forward, I hope companies, green energy companies and climate groups and the Green Party and all of those green eco-political parties take this and use it, using it as a way to say, look, what we are proposing is something radically different that will be able to help this. I hope everyone's really safe in this weather. I hope you get through it absolutely fine. Please, if you have any ideas or suggestions about anything I've talked about, leave them below and let's get some talking going. Bye, Nikki. Bye, Transport Evolved.